Hi, welcome to the third of this week's 3 video lectures. We continue today with a technology originally created for the purpose of assessment and then adapted to the purpose of learning, and that's automated essay scoring. Automated essay scoring is technology that can take a student essay and score it, either overall or in terms of several dimensions. And sometimes automated essay scoring technologies can be leveraged to also provide detailed feedback. The Roos et al. Chapter, which is in your readings, goes into a lot of detail about the pre-LLM technology used in this. And I'm only going to skim the surface of that technology, since this class focuses more on adaptive learning than student modeling. The technologies underlying automated essay scoring get a couple of sessions in 6191, but it really could, and maybe even should be, a class all on its own. Automated essay scoring, in brief, represents words, and in an early version, is it the same words, perhaps with spell checking and stemming? Stemming is like when you say, read, reads, and reading are all the same word. You cut off the M's. In later versions, there's things like human-developed semantic taggers that assign semantic categories to words, or latent semantic analysis, which represents meanings of words in a simplified matrix. In still later versions, machine-learned words to vectors, literally word to vec, but other tools as well. And in the most recent versions, highly complex neural network representations of words like you see in large language models. And there's also tech to represent the relationships between words. In the earliest based work, quote-unquote bag of words that just said, are the words present? In later versions, rule-based grammar parsing with human beings making the rules. And in the most recent versions, neural network representations of text of arbitrary lengths. And across these two areas, and in general, in natural language processing, there's an overall trend of going from interpretable representations to uninterpretable representations, achieving a steadily better fit to data, but with more weird behavior. And we'll get to this in a minute. And the current state of the art in this area is large language models. Recently, there's been extensive use of large language models, neural network representations developed on massive amounts of internet data. They're highly expensive to build, but they make it possible to train models with a lot less training examples than ever before. So before, where you might have needed literally thousands of examples of high-grade and low-grade essays to create an automated essay scoring model for a single specific prompt with high quality, now it may be possible to do so with a much smaller number of examples, or even 0 examples, just a well-designed prompt for your large language model. But with both the older methods and the newer methods, there's weird behavior. Automated essay scoring has always had the problem that while it can usually replicate human judgment overall, it gets different cases wrong than people. People typically fail to be able to grade edge cases and all agree, oh yeah, those are edge cases. Automated scoring sometimes gives good grades to visibly way out of bounds solutions. And there's a cottage industry of critics who understand the algorithms and are therefore good at getting the algorithms to fail in embarrassing ways. Like Les Perelman. Here's an example from Perelman 2015. A tool designed to generate essays that are gibberish but perform well on E-Rater, a popular automated essay scoring tool of its era. So for example, a student might be given an essay prompt to analyze an issue. Perelman's tool is able to make complete gibberish, and you can take a look here. This is nonsense, right? It's got a lot of good words. It's got a lot of words that a correct answer would have. It's got good grammar, but it just makes no sense. And it just goes on and on and on with its nonsense, including talking about Professor of Literature Leon Trotsky. And it gets a great score because Perelman knew how E-Rater failed. And you can find so many more examples at this link. Now, in order to design this critique, Perelman leveraged detailed published papers on exactly how E-Rater works, and importantly, a web interface for being able to try out essays on E-Rater and get results back. E-Rater were being good citizens and letting people inspect what they did, and it's been reported that Perelman submitted hundreds of essays in order to converge to a tool that made E-Rater look awful. In other words, that generation of natural language processing was vulnerable to malicious attack. And another note, at the time, Perelman was trying, and eventually succeeding, in commercializing a tool to teach students to write called First Peg and then MyWrite. A tool competing with E-Rater's system that was also available commercially. Now you might ask, are large language models equally vulnerable? Well, they don't make the same mistakes as earlier generation systems. They're not going to take true gibberish the same way because they have more of a sense of what words and topics go together across sentences, and so they're better at catching the types of problems in Perlman's tool. They still make mistakes. They're getting better all the time, although I say that, honestly, I feel like they're getting worse right now. I feel like GPT-4 Turbo's latest versions are a lot worse than the earlier versions of GPT-4, but so it goes. So, as we go from automated essay scoring to automated writing support, because of course this is an adaptive learning class, not an adaptive scoring class, there have been several systems that provide feedback and support. One important such system is WritingPal, developed by Roscoe and McNamara and Crossley and their colleagues, which in essays tried to look for and then give feedback on legitimacy, aka non-words, length, relevance, aka presence of keywords, structure, aka number of paragraphs. Peg from Perlman and colleagues looked at usage including grammar errors, articles, commonly confused words, preposition errors, and also organization and development, finding and improving thesis statements, and having a sufficient number of supporting ideas. Foltz and Rosenstein from the E-Rater team developed Write to Learn, which looked at trying to assess and then give support on development of ideas, organization, conventions, word choice, and sentence fluency. The later version of Perlman's tool, MyWrite, looked at spelling and grammar, idea development, organization, style, sentence fluency, word choice, and conventions. Some of this looks familiar to me for some reason. Gao et al. Looked at, in their system, looked at identifying spelling errors, identifying content word-related errors, identifying function word-related errors, collocation errors, syntactic errors, and tips on lexical use and syntactic use. Now, a bit of an irony. Perlman used E-Rater's openness about how their system works and the availability of the system to public inspection to run hundreds of tests to eventually develop ways to make E-Rater look terrible. Perlman and his colleagues, in turn, decided not to publish details on how their tech works and don't have any open way to try their tool out, preventing others from critiquing their tool the way that Perlman critiqued ETS's tool, E-Rater. And as a side effect, folks involved in E-Rater did not publish nearly as much detail when describing Write to Learn and did not make the tool openly available for critique, which I guess suggests that they learned their lesson about being good citizens. Beyond feedback, WritingPal also offers a curriculum to teach some of the relevant skills. And this includes things like looking at the different phases, such as pre-writing, drafting, and revising, and covering strategies including free writing, outlining, graphic organizing, strategies for writing introduction paragraph thesis statements, argument previews, and attention-grabbing techniques, topics for writing topic sentences and providing objective supporting evidence, strategies for doing things like restating the thesis and summarizing the arguments in the conclusion, and during revising, strategies for paraphrasing, cohesion building, and reviewing an essay for completeness and clarity and how to improve it along those terms. Now, with all those tools out there, another option, of course, is for students to simply use Grammarly or ChatGPT or another large language model to improve their writing. One criticism levied towards these tools, particularly Grammarly and ChatGPT, but really automated writing support in general, is that they scaffold performance more than they help people learn to do it right. It's worth asking, is this a real problem? Is it okay if a future generation of writers always uses Grammarly? It'd be kind of inefficient. Some evidence along these lines comes from a paper in 2016 who found that use of that era's version of Grammarly did in fact not lead to better performance on future essays if you took away Grammarly. So that might be an issue if we really want people to learn to do it faster without Grammarly in the first place. So some key takeaways to conclude this third lecture of the week. Automated essay scoring is pretty good, and it's getting better. It has a history of making weird mistakes, and it's not yet clear how prone the newest methods are to doing this. Many tools are out there now to give adaptive writing support, and emerging tools, and I call ChatGPT emerging because it keeps emerging, it keeps changing, but tools like ChatGPT also now serve as writing scaffolds. So, thank you very much for coming to this week's lectures. That was a lot of lecture this week, a lot of content. I'll see you in class, and I'll see you next week. Thank you very much.